Career advice almost always tells you the same thing. Work harder than everyone around you. Say yes to more. Go above and beyond on every single task, and the recognition will eventually catch up to you. Most people never question that advice because on the surface it sounds like basic math. More effort in, more reward out. But here's what almost nobody in career coaching wants to admit. Sometimes deliberately pulling your effort back in specific parts of your job isn't slacking. It's the smarter move. The conventional wisdom assumes a few things about how your workplace actually operates. It assumes reward scales directly with effort. It assumes your best work gets seen and remembered accurately by the people who decide your raise or your promotion. It assumes your energy is an unlimited resource. You can spend the same way on the project that matters and the report nobody will ever read twice. It assumes the timing of your effort doesn't matter, only the total amount. For some people, in some environments, those assumptions hold up fine. For most people, they don't. And that gap is exactly where good employees burn themselves out chasing a payoff that was never coming. I'm going to walk you through 7 legitimate reasons why calibrating your effort down in specific areas might actually be the right strategic move for your situation. These aren't excuses to do bad work. They're structural realities about how effort does or doesn't convert into reward inside most organizations. And understanding them changes how you decide where your time actually goes. Before we get into the reasons, let's define the distinction we're talking about, because this matters more than it sounds like it should. There's required effort, the baseline competence that keeps you employed and off anyone's radar for the wrong reasons. Then there's discretionary effort, the extra hours, the extra polish, the initiative that goes beyond what's asked. Most people assume discretionary effort converts directly into advancement. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it just evaporates into a system that was never built to notice it. And figuring out which situation you're actually in changes where that effort should go. Reason 1, merit budgets are usually locked before anyone evaluates your actual work. In most companies, finance sets the total raise and bonus pool for the year based on revenue projections, often months before your manager ever reviews what you did. If that pool is fixed at a certain percentage for the department, it stays fixed whether you worked 40 hours a week or 60. Your extra effort doesn't get rejected. It gets diluted across a number that was already decided before you walked into the review. This is one of the least understood parts of how compensation actually works, and it's rarely explained to employees directly because it isn't flattering to say out loud. Reason 2, most of what you actually do never reaches the numbers your organization uses to talk about you. Every department runs on a handful of tracked metrics, a dashboard, a monthly report that gets forwarded upward, and those metrics capture the most countable slice of the job, not the hardest or most valuable one. Spend a week solving a genuinely difficult, judgment-heavy problem, and if it doesn't move a number on that dashboard, it functionally didn't happen as far as the record is concerned. Meanwhile, a colleague closes 12 easy tickets, and the tracker shows 12 in bold next to their name. Reason 3, promotions run on a budget calendar, not an effort calendar. Headcount and title changes usually move through fiscal planning cycles, often just once or twice a year. Deliver your best quarter right after that window closes, and none of it counts toward anything until the next cycle opens, which can be many months away. This single fact explains why so many people feel like their timing was unlucky, when really the calendar was simply never built to match how effort actually happens day to day. Reason 4, your manager's memory of your year leans heavily toward whatever happened most recently, not whatever you did most consistently. If your best work was spread evenly across 12 months, there's nothing sharp for them to recall in the moment it actually matters. Concentrated, recent effort tends to beat identical effort spread thin. Reason 5, focus and willpower are finite resources, not infinite ones. Giving full intensity to low visibility busy work spends down the same reserve you need for the project that actually counts. By the time that project shows up, you're already running on fumes, and the quality of your work shows it. Reason 6, your rating this year is anchored to your rating last year far more than most people realize. Performance systems, especially at larger companies, run on calibration meetings where managers defend scores against each other, and a score that jumps too far from your prior one invites questions nobody wants to answer. A 3 becomes a 3.5. It rarely becomes a 5, no matter how much better the year actually was, because the system is optimized to avoid volatility, not to reflect it accurately. Reason 7, you're graded on a curve you can't see. Most formal review processes force distribute scores across a team, so only so many people can land in the top bracket regardless of how good everyone actually was. If 2 or 3 peers are having standout years at the same time you are, the curve compresses instead of expanding to fit all of you. Your extra effort is measured against whoever else happened to also go all in this cycle, and that's a number you don't control. Now, here's when you should absolutely not do this. If you're within your first few months at a job or still on any kind of formal probation, this strategy backfires. You haven't built enough credibility yet for calibrated effort to read as strategic instead of just underwhelming. If your role is safety critical, client-facing at a make-or-break level, or the kind of work where a single missed detail causes real damage, pulling back the wrong 10% isn't a smaller bonus. It's a real problem. And if you're already inside an active promotion window, this is not the moment to coast on anything. Save the calibration for the months before and after that window, not during it. There's a well-documented pattern in how people evaluate others called the recency effect, where evaluators end up weighting someone's most recent work far more heavily than the months that came before it, even when they believe they're judging the whole period fairly. Most people instinctively spread their effort evenly across the year because it feels fair and consistent. How evaluators actually remember performance works against that instinct, not with it. So what should you actually do? First, find out exactly which metrics your manager reports upward, the actual dashboard, the actual monthly deck, and steer a meaningful share of your discretionary effort toward moving those numbers instead of toward work that merely feels productive. Second, get comfortable pushing back on overflow with a simple line like, "I can get to that by Thursday, given what's already on my plate," instead of silently absorbing it. Third, find out when your organization's actual review and budget cycles happen and concentrate your most visible effort in the weeks leading up to that window. Fourth, treat your energy like a budget you're allocating deliberately, not a well you draw from equally all year. Fifth, if this still feels uncomfortable to try, start small. Pick one recurring task this month where you consciously aim for good enough instead of exceptional, and pay attention to what actually happens when you do. This isn't permission to do sloppy work or coast through your entire job. It's a recognition that the system rewarding you was never built to measure total effort in the first place. It measures what's tracked, what's recent, and what fits inside a distribution that was already decided before you showed up. Once you see that clearly, you stop spending your best energy where nobody's watching, and you start spending it exactly where it can be seen. If this gave you a different way to think about your own workload, subscribe to this channel. We break down the systems that quietly shape careers, the ones nobody explains to you directly, and we give you a way to work inside them without burning yourself out chasing a formula that was never designed to reward effort alone. New videos post regularly, and the next one takes this exact idea somewhere you won't expect.